Let me start that, and then maybe I can try that screen share again. Okay, so the class is scheduled for Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon, okay? Originally, I thought we were gonna have a Monday, Wednesday class. So the way that I structured life for this semester is that we will have synchronous class meetings on Wednesdays. I can't change it to the time I thought, so we're meeting Wednesdays at 12 p.m. moving forward. Every Wednesday Zoom call noon, okay? Mondays and Fridays are going to feel asynchronous. We will not have class meetings. There may be the occasional Monday, Friday where because of an exam or some sort of schedule shift that we do need to meet. So if you have a job or some other, circumstances, don't tell them that you're available because you do still have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12 p.m. But you can pretty much assume moving forward, you will need to be on a Zoom on Wednesdays. So the way the rest of the week is going to look is you will have asynchronous material posted to the course page. It will coincide with our class discussion for that week. So you will have, readings, videos, whatever to do on your own time. And the assignments that are posted that go along with that content will be due every week by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Okay. So you should be able to follow along on our course page. Oh my God, Zoom. You should be able to follow along and see when things are coming due and keep up with life in that way. But basically you'll know that week to week, you'll have an asynchronous assignment.
I have a question. So whenever we do meet on a Monday, you would send us an email before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to pull up the class page right now. I will show you. Hopefully you guys can see this opening. Yes. You see the course page. Okay. So as you go along, we're in week 1 right now. I have content for 118 synchronous. If it says synchronous, that's a day we have a meeting. So if things change along the way, I will also update that. The course page should be very well laid out to help you see exactly what is synchronous. And then let's look at week 2, asynchronous for Monday. So that is the work that you need to complete before Sunday of next week. Okay. And then we will meet on Wednesday, 125 in a synchronous format. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So follow along closely on the course page. And once we get into a rhythm with the class, I think you'll fall right into, how things go. Over here on upcoming events, you'll see 6 Myths of Romance. That's your asynchronous work due for Sunday the 29th. But you also have this Love Languages Reflection, and that's a Flipgrid video activity. So just make sure that you check, in addition to upcoming events, check week to week to see what all you need to be doing in the asynchronous format. I can't make the forums show up in upcoming events. So, but again, I think once you start navigating, you'll kind of get the hang of it. All right, so I'm going to try one more time to move back to this PowerPoint because I really just want to hit the highlights of contacting me. Email is the best way. I will also be available on my cell phone if you would like to get in touch with me that way. My email is my maiden name. The university never got me changed for my time as a student. So, but you already have my contact. And just to kind of give you a little bit about myself, I was a student at App for my undergraduate and master's, and I am currently a student at ETSU. So I mentioned that in my little intro video, if you all watched that. If not, go back and watch it just so you can kind of get a sense of who I am as a person. And here's some pictures of my life and some of my people and animals. But I just say that right now to kind of remind and reiterate that I fully realize we are all people, doing life, and this school stuff is sometimes secondary to what goes on in the real world, right? In our lives with our families. So if you have a situation come up where you're feeling overwhelmed or overloaded, or, things have gotten kind of off track, please, open lines of communication are the most important thing. Reach out to me and I will support you in getting caught back up or whatever we need to do to work together. I try to be really flexible and understanding with my students, with my classes, because I know that we all have a lot going on. I have 2 kiddos. I homeschool them. So normally I have a care plan in place and they won't be popping in on Zoom, but occasionally they may make a cameo appearance. And it's a family development course, right? So that's part of the deal. Just bear with me and we'll get through that together. So really quickly, I would like to see maybe just a virtual show of hands. Actually, just everybody chat really quick if you could chime in with year of study and program of study. I like to kind of know who the audience is so I can sort of think about tailoring some of the conversation to different interests and backgrounds. So year of study and program of study, and I'll be glancing through the chat as things come in. This class is one of the more kind of well-rounded that I teach. We normally, and it looks like again, have people from freshman through senior, and it usually attracts folks from a wide variety of backgrounds. We've got education, psychology, some health studies, lots of child development, looks like. Some kind of outside the box ones, which I like to see. The good thing is that like we're all, am I frozen? Frozen. Am I good now? Okay. We're all situated within a family, right? So our lives kind of exist within a family context. And as life progresses, families shift and change. So regardless of what you're interested in studying, the content is going to be relevant to probably where you've been, where you are, and hopefully, you know, maybe where you're going. So give me one word. I'm going to skip over describe yourself. Could everyone use the chat to chime in a word you would use to describe your family at this moment in time? The first word that came up was disconnected. I see supportive, loving, chaotic, easygoing, toxic, loving, close, toxic, supportive, relaxed, loyal, broken, dysfunctional. All of those words that I've just said, I feel like either currently describe, you know, some aspect of my family, have at some point in the past. And so that's kind of, you know, the point of this exercise, I think, is just to recognize again, families shift and change, and the dynamics are not always the same. And we find ourselves in different circumstances and different relationships that kind of, you know, ebb and flow. But I hope what you will take away from this class are some maybe tools, strategies, understanding of people and relationships that might help you in your family lives. Again, 100% online, Zoom format, and asynchronous, okay? And you can go back and kind of dig through this more thoroughly on your own time. I do just want to take a few minutes to address the fact that when we come together in this class, we will be discussing some issues and, you know, relationship patterns and things that might be kind of sensitive to some people. A lot of people have strong opinions and ideas on some of the things that we will discuss. And so our discussions will happen in a way that demonstrates mutual respect, right? We are not here, none of us are here to I'm here to have conversation. Okay. And so I want us to all be here to have conversation. That means that we don't always have to have the same viewpoints or share the same perspectives. But when we have discussion about things where we differ, we do it in a way that is inclusive and understanding and respectful. And I say this every semester, and then, you know, sometimes I have to go behind and kind of follow up on conversations that are had maybe in breakout sessions or something that don't feel that way. So I just want to, again, it's a plug to make sure that everyone knows appropriate, respectful conduct during our conversations. You can see the objectives in the syllabus that you had. Thumbs up if you've got access to the textbook through VitaSource. Perfect. I hate electronic textbooks, but it is what it is, right? You will need to use the text and read along as we're going through. And then again, there will be other reading and video assignments and things to kind of supplement the chapter work. Assignments and your grade, which is what everyone really is here for, right? You're going to get, there will be 3 exams. We'll have one in about 5 weeks or so. And then we'll have a midterm and a final. I have gone back and forth with how I gauge understanding of information in this class. And that's really what I want to see, right? Is that you have consumed, digested, and really have like a working understanding of the concepts that we're talking about. So I don't love multiple choice, short answer, true, false kind of assessments, because you can memorize facts and figures and do okay on those, but I cannot tell that you really like comprehend what we're, the concepts. So I do written exams. I think people are better able to articulate their thinking, and really it takes a bit more analytical and critical thinking. So it's more work for you and it's more work for me, but it's the best way I feel to assess knowledge and understanding. So 3 exams. I will keep you in the loop. We'll have a study guide-ish where I give you key topics to look back on, and you'll be well prepared, I think, for those as they come due. Reflections. There's usually a lot of confusion about this. I don't want to spend too much time on it right now because it's a ways off, but you're going to have 10 reflections that you write, about 1 to 2 pages each, and they are due at the midterm and the final kind of checkpoints of the semester. You'll turn in 5 at the midterm and 5 at the end of the semester. Okay. I'm going to go through those in just a minute. But just know that those are part of your grade. And then asynchronous participation. I will not be going back and backlogging, for large chunks of the semester. So that week to week stuff needs to be kept up with in order for you to receive credit for it, unless you and I have privately worked out an alternative plan. So keep up with your weekly stuff weekly, because it will be being graded pretty much as it's coming. This is specific to asynchronous, and it's everything I just said. 50 points accumulated across the course of the semester. Got some university policies, things that you may need to know. Pretty much inclement weather doesn't apply to us in the virtual world unless we don't have power or things like that may happen. So it's a possibility, but generally speaking, if we're okay to be on Zoom, we'll be on Zoom on Wednesdays at noon. Okay. I'm reminding myself of that schedule change. Please, when we have breakout discussions, again, cameras on and participating in the conversation. I will normally visit with each group and sort of check in. And I often see, nobody there, everyone's muted. And I'm like, how are we doing a conversation and I know there are ways electronically, but I really want to simulate being together and having conversation when we are able. So we'll do that way. And that is that. I'm going to pause and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions, share concerns before we move on.
What are the reflections about?
Yeah, I'm getting to that right now. And actually, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully walk you through that. But if my computer doesn't cooperate, we'll talk it out. Okay. And it's all here for you to see as well. So you can see the course page. Yes. All right. Right here, you have the links where you're going to submit. I'm opening up. Am I frozen? Okay, good. Thanks. I'm sorry, you guys. When I'm home on my desktop, it won't be like this, I promise. Okay, submit reflections 1 through 5. If you click into this assignment link, there are 2 documents. Hilarious. I know. Yeah, Mally said it. Whoa. Yep, that was intense. I don't I don't know what just happened, but am I back with you guys now? All right. Yeah, so my computer gets pretty angry when I try to share my screen or like when things are opening. So anyway, I'm gonna let it think for a minute and open that document. But again, when you go into those assignment links, there are two forms. One is going to walk you through the reflections, and then the other is a rubric that explains how the reflections will be graded. Okay. I expect that you guys can go in on your own time and open those up and look through them and figure it out. But I also am going to talk through the reflections now. Oh, I can't minimize Zoom when I'm recording. Okay. So anyway, my Word document is opening. I think you guys probably can share screen. Does anyone have that open that they would try to share their screen? Anybody able to help me out? If not, it's all good. Oh, here we go. Okay. Thank you for being patient with this. I apologize again. Okay, can you see this? All right. So the reflection assignment, it describes basically what I want to see is a summary of the topic that I'm asking you to read about. And your first topic, if you see due at midterm, topic 1, marriage preparation and relationship programs. Okay, it's on page 18 of your textbook. So as you're reading through the chapter, you're going to see this excerpt. They're like these big green boxes, and they're about kind of related content that goes along with the chapter. The first one is on marriage preparation and relationship programs, and you will read it and write a reflection that includes a brief summary of what you read, and then your own thoughts and ideas in response to the issue. Okay, so it's 2 parts. It's summarize the issue and then tell me what you think, what you feel, how it relates to your own experience, whatever personal information you're willing to share. And so as you go through the semester, you've got number 1, marriage prep. Number 2 is about office romance, love in the workplace. It's on page 37 and 38 of your text. Number 3, female genitalia alteration, page 64 of your text. Okay. You see how that flows? Okay. If you have pulled up your syllabus and you see the class schedule, I have also given you some sort of reference points for when you should start working on these assignments. Although I know most people are going to wait till the midterm and then they're going to do them all at one time. I get that. But if you want to keep up with it as we're going through and make it kind of make sense with what we're discussing in class, follow that outline in the syllabus. Questions or concerns about that?
Would you care if we went ahead and got some of them done, or do you want us to wait and do it like as the class goes?
No, you all do you, whatever works. Work ahead if that works for you. Someone just said they're not able to hear me. Is that just them, or is everyone else able to hear me? We're good, right? Okay. Okay. Sorry, Austin, I'm not sure, but it seems like my sound is okay for everyone else. Okay, so I think we've been through all of the kind of introductory stuff. One more opportunity to chime in with questions or concerns. And one thing that I didn't say is like in regards to, I believe Charlie just asked the question about writing ahead. If you are uncertain, if you went in the right direction, or you want me to take a glance at it and give you some feedback before the point that those items are due, I'm happy to look things over via email and say, yes, you're on the right track, or, no, rework this and think about these things. Okay. I'm always available electronically. And I like to be, communicative, especially if you're feeling uncertain. All right. Okay, I'm closing her down. We are going to talk today about some content from the first chapter of your text. And again, I've kind of had to make some changes based on our time frame, but we will get there and work it all out. So the textbook that we're using is called Choices. I know. So, wow. All right. Hopefully that's the last of all of that. I'm gonna try one more time. I've got this how I want it, and maybe it'll just open. Yes. Are we good? I'm so sorry again. This is terrible. I know, and you're probably like, oh my God. It's not gonna be like this every time, okay? All right. So the textbook is Choices in Relationships. And so everything that we discuss in this class is kind of going to be looked at through that lens, right? That we make choices or we don't make choices, right? That influence our outcomes with regard to our relationships with others. Specifically in this chapter, we're going to talk about theoretical frameworks that help us understand relationships in families. We're not going to talk about those today. We're going to come back to those next week, but be aware that that's coming. And then so today we're going to focus really on kind of marriage, family, and talk about some issues related to research in the field. Talk about, I mentioned this before. I'm sorry, I have to. Oh, there. I have to minimize the presentation because I can't see my notes that well. All right, so I just mentioned that sometimes indecision or not making a choice is a choice in and of itself, right? So an example of that is, if you're sexually active and you don't make a choice to be protective or to use, protection, then you are essentially making a choice through that kind of indecision. And so there's a lot of I have never. All right. Keep plugging away at this. There are a lot of situations where that might be the case, right? Indecision is a decision itself. And choices that we make in our family relationships, in our lives in general, choices require action. So you are not necessarily accomplishing anything just by making a decision. You have to follow up on that with action. So in the circumstance that I just gave, ensuring that you have protection available would be the action that would follow that decision to have safe sex. Choices involve trade-offs, right? So I made a decision a couple of years ago during COVID to leave my place of employment full time and to be at home. I used to just teach adjunct, as kind of a side project in the evenings. I worked full time and I had 2 young children. Now I stay home with my children. I homeschool them and I work kind of full time in the adjunct teaching world. But that choice involved trade-offs, right? I gave up my salary at my full-time place of employment in order to be home with my family more. However, the flip side of that was that when I was working full time, I was trading off my time at home with my family, right? So everything we do in our lives involves these trade-offs. Sometimes we make a choice and we're not happy with it. So we get to make other choices, right? We can make new ones. Your perspective is kind of everything in life and in family relationships, right? So even those terms that came up in our chat, dysfunctional, broken, chaotic, those kind of family descriptors that maybe carry a little bit more negative connotations, our perception of those circumstances really is going to determine how we respond to those different circumstances, right? So the reality might be that your family is chaotic or dysfunctional, but you can choose to, find the good, be grateful for whatever. And that really does kind of help with managing and navigating, challenges in the family or in your relationships. So the shifts that we're going to talk about that we've really kind of seen in the past, 10 to 20 years in terms of families and relationships and things like that, a lot of that is going to have to do with technology. We all live in a world, I mean, we're sitting here right now using technology, but we all live in a world that is very much impacted by media, social media, availability of technology, advances in technology. And that's going to be kind of a thread that weaves itself through this course. In almost every topic that we talk about, it will come up. So we'll look at how that changes family relationships, how that influences individuals within relationships. And then one of the theoretical frameworks that we'll talk about next week when we look at, understanding family relationships more deeply is going to talk specifically about family life cycles, right? But I told you guys at the beginning of this call, I'm at my parents' house right now. I have in the past 3 weeks just been thrown into this role of caretaking for my dad's 77. And, so I have young children at home, and now I find myself providing like physical care for my dad, which is, it was unexpected, even though intellectually I knew it would come one day. But it's a shift, right, in the family life cycle. So I have in the last 3 weeks found myself in this different kind of point in my own family circumstances, and that happens to us all, and it happens sometimes when we are expecting it and we kind of plan for it. Like if I'm going to have a baby and my family is going to shift in that way, certainly I have a while to make, accommodations and plan that out, right? And then sometimes we have these kind of emergent type of situations that just kind of come at us, and things shift and we go with it, right? But I think you can all probably think of things in your own experience that have happened or that may happen, that kind of represent that idea of family life stages. Other influences on choices, globalization. I think COVID is probably the most accessible example of this, right? So COVID happened. It was a global situation. It affected us socially, politically, economically, like in all the ways, and still kind of is, in some sense, even though we say we're kind of post-pandemic now. I think, we can all look back on that as kind of a mark in time where things changed. And again, it's because there are, the macro level, macro system level things that happen that affect us all the way down to the micro level, which is where we find ourselves situated in our family context, right? Social structures. So kind of related idea is, we all are individuals that exist within these different systems, right? So I might be a member of a church. I might be a member of some sort of organization. You guys are all university students. So there are things that happen at the political level that influence the university level that influence you as an individual. And we see that happen in all of our relationships throughout our kind of network, if you will. there's this idea that choices are made within a social context, right? So we're going to talk about the mating gradient a little later on, but this is a societal norm that suggests that men who seek a younger, less educated, and less financially secure partner are doing what is socially normed, right? So we see that kind of pattern play out, like older men might select, I'm using this just as an example, a younger woman who, you know, is maybe less educated and less financially secure than them. That's kind of a societal norm. And so a lot of the choices that we make, whether we do them intentionally or not, they're influenced by those type of things. Gender role ideology, men should behave this way, women should behave this way. That's another example of societal stuff that plays into our choices and our decisions. And we're going to unpack all of those ideas further down the road. I'm just kind of mentioning them now. Culture, beliefs, value systems, those kind of ideas also very much influence our relationship choices. So in America, we tend to hold the standard of individualism pretty dear. So we typically make our decisions based on our own selves, right? We are not necessarily a familial or a collective culture. Other cultures are more collective in that they are more interested in doing for the good of the group than for the individual. And then familialism is, you know, you're making decisions based on your family. So in a lot of cultures, people in the nuclear family live with extended family members. There's this kind of generational thread. Again, we don't see that as much in the United States as we see in other cultures, but those sort of, again, their macro level values, they influence our choices. Family of origin, right? The words I asked you to use to describe your families, they kind of hit this nerve. Family of origin plays a huge role in how we understand ourselves, how we understand other people, how we understand relationships, what we expect out of love and marriage, all that stuff, right? It's a huge factor. And we'll talk some more later about how it may, you know, specifically impact different relationship choices and things like that. But for now, it's sufficient to just know that it does. Our own personality, you know, some of us may be more extroverted, some people are introverted. We all have different beliefs and kind of core things, and how we relate to the world and relate to other people is definitely going to be an influential factor in relationship choices. And then again, social media. So we have a lot more access to people, we have a lot more access to information, and that really has impacted how we come together and relate to one another. And, you know, we'll talk again more about that in depth. So these are the theoretical frameworks. I'm skipping past this part because I don't want to talk about it yet. We're going to do a group activity next time we come together to really unpack those more. Okay, so I'm moving down to slide 15 to talk about marriage. Marriage, I'm sure I'm not going to blow anyone's mind with this information. It is a legal binding contract that two people knowingly enter into together. The age for qualifying for a marriage license is actually different state to state. But marriage as a legal binding contract, it carries implications with it that, you know, those two individuals will share property, will share finances, benefits, things like that. The text gives us this statistic that 93% of married adults in the United States will list love as their top reason for getting married, which doesn't bode well, because, you know, more than half of the marriages in the United States end in divorce, right? So we have to kind of think about like what even is love? How do we define love? How do we experience love? How do we share love? Um, and next week's content is going to be specifically focusing on love. So this is just a teaser. How many of you guys have taken, if you can raise your virtual hand, maybe have taken the love languages quiz or assessment? People familiar with that? I see a couple of hands. So for some people, it may be a review, but it looks like a lot of people have not done that. And it's usually pretty interesting. I get good feedback from students that I think understanding, you know, kind of how you value love and what you see as how you give and receive love, can be really important in terms of helping you think about love relationships, right? But the bottom line is that love is a decision that we make. It's not like a feeling, or it can come with feelings, certainly. But you know, if you're looking for a certain feeling to carry you through a partnership or a marriage relationship, that's likely going to wane at some point, and then you know, you have to figure out from there, like, what's this relationship really built on. So anyway, more of that to come. Sexual monogamy is often a piece of a marriage relationship, not necessarily. And we'll talk about some relationships that sort of don't choose to be sexually monogamous. You know, again, more to come on that. But generally speaking, that is typically kind of a marker of marriage. Marriage relationships obviously come along with a legal responsibility for nurture and care of children. And one of the theoretical frameworks that we will discuss really is suggesting that the reason that we have the type of relationships, marriage, and things that we have is because of that societal function to care for children. It's kind of an evolutionary mechanism that helps us take care of our young. So marriage typically involves a public announcement, right? Although some people do elope and do it, you know, secretly or quietly, even after the fact, most of the time people do some sort of reveal, right? Because it's a big deal. It's one of those markers in your life that suggests I have gone from an individual to kind of a partnership in, you know, a joint relationship. And so that's typically a piece that comes with it. Some terms that are brought out in the text to describe marriage. So polygamy is a term for individuals who marry more than one spouse, right? Not legal in the United States, however, still practiced in some places. There are pockets in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. Oftentimes, this type of polygamous relationship is related to certain religious affiliations, and we do see it again still happen, and it's common in some other cultures. But polygamy is the term that you need to be familiar with for multiple spouses. And then there are two types of polygamy. So polygyny is one man with multiple wives, polygyny. And the opposite, one wife with multiple husbands, is called polyandry. This is a much less common form of polygamy. We most of the time see one man with multiple wives. And then pentagamy is a formal arrangement, sometimes practiced like in communes or collective group living situations. It's essentially a group marriage that might include multiple men and multiple women who have committed to one another in a group context. When we think about marriage, it does carry implications of benefits to the individual, right? So use the chat feature really quickly and shout out some of the things that you think would be related to benefits of being married. Why would we even? Fulfillment, income, not being alone, joint taxes, joint income, taxes, having a partner to spend time with, stability, someone who can help make medical decisions for you, someone to spend your life with, deep connection. Okay, so a lot of the things that I am saying and that you guys are putting into the chat are related to the emotional component, right? So connection, being together, having someone to share life with. And then there's also these really practical pieces, someone to have another income coming into the home, shared income, shared resources. Those, it's all yes, right? So we do find practical sort of life benefits from being married. There are just simply more resources. There are more resources to care for children if you have a partner. There are more resources in terms of the economic piece. There's more resources in terms of family network, right? So when I marry my husband, I became connected to his family. And so I have a mother-in-law now and a father-in-law that I can draw on as help essentially when I need it. And so that is definitely a factor. And then I think finances is a huge piece that you guys definitely hit on. That is a reason why people could choose to get married. Some risks that we should just sort of be aware of are marriage is associated in the research with obesity. Oftentimes we see people get married and we see changes in their physical well-being that have health implications down the road. Also, that word toxic came up when we were talking. Some people end up in very toxic or very unhealthy marriage relationships, and those have implications for your long-term, sort of psychological and even physical well-being. So it's not without risk, but the benefits usually outweigh the challenges. So thinking really quickly about family dynamics, and I know I only have 5 minutes, I'm going to talk fast. Basically, some definitions that you need to know are in the textbook, kinship system of relatives living together. That's kind of how we define family. And the book gives us these other terms, affective kin. So this is family of choice, right? Not necessarily blood relation. And if you have, for some of us who don't have strong relationships with our family of origin, you may understand this a little more than people who, haven't chosen this family of choice, but we can sometimes be closer to people that we're not blood related with than we are with our own family. And that is still considered family, right? It's sort of how you define family. Civil union, marriage is an example of a civil union, right? So two people who are not related join together in civil union to become family. We also have domestic partnerships, not a marriage, but it's an example of two individuals who cohabitate long enough that they assume a kind of official recognition. And this is usually related to benefits like health insurance or things that might influence or affect both partners, right? Domestic partnerships are recognized in certain contexts as family relationships. And then all these different types of families, right? So I already talked about our family of origin. That's where you came from. Your family of procreation is your family after you leave your family of origin and you create a new family. So you get married and possibly have children. Nuclear family is really just the term referring to the family that you find yourself most closely situated in. So I used to be the daughter in a nuclear family in this home, and now I am a wife and mother in a nuclear family that looks and feels different. They were both nuclear families to me at different points in time. Obviously, we have our extended family, which is that network of people outside the nuclear. And then these different terms just to sort of describe families in today's society, right? So would someone be willing to unmute and tell me traditional family? What would that look like?
you got the mom, the dad, and then they have kids, which would be like a daughter and a son.
2.5 kids, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, mom, dad, who's working?
the dad, of course.
Typically the dad, right? But our traditional family now is kind of shifted to like, the reality is that most families have to have both parents working. And so, and that's just a shift, even to point out that traditional shifts over time, but exactly right. So modern family, someone give me an example of a modern family. It's actually probably more what I just said with that shift from strict traditional where, you know, dad is outside the home, mom is a homemaker, to modern family is both parents working outside of the home. And things are, you know, a bit not as traditional. Okay, so I'm sorry if I caused any confusion on that. But traditional is what was just described. Modern would be, again, that shift. And then postmodern. Can anyone give me an example of a postmodern family? I would also include single parenthood under that more modern family. So postmodern is going to be same-sex couples raising children, polyamorous relationships where you have multiple partners. That's a postmodern family dynamic. Okay. So you can see just kind of through talking through those as examples, that those are just things that have really kind of shifted and unfolded over time. There's a question in the chat: can non-romantic single moms or parents be domestic partners? Absolutely. So, you know, sometimes, and that's a great thing to point out, that not all relationships are based on love and romance. Sometimes it's just practical. We come together to do life and to raise children. But if that is going on long enough and recognized in the eyes of an employer or the court system, you know, then certainly those people would be recognized as domestic partners. I have a couple more slides about research in the field. Don't know that we'll come back to this, but it's generally like you just need to know when you're doing research with individuals, humans, there's a process that has to go into that. And, you know, it's not as black and white as like science research on rats, right? Because we're people with all these things happening and going on, and thoughts and emotions and all that stuff plays into it. So what we're going to be talking about in this class moving forward is based on that type of research about humans. And so it's messy and not necessarily black and white. There's a lot of gray area. All right. I know I hit you guys hard with a lot today, and I'm super sorry about the Zoom glitching. It will get better from here. Email me if you have any questions. If nothing, you know, if something that I said was unclear. Otherwise, I will see you back when?
Wednesday.
Wednesday at noon. Okay. And keep up with your work for next week. It's posted to the course page.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.